sometimes a real experience of his presence that the Psalms calls seeking his face. Got to be careful here, and I am a Presbyterian, so I don't know. This might sound kind of strange. Sometimes you got to feel him. The Bible talks about seeking God's face. I seek thy face. Even today, in our digital age, if you have been emailing somebody or you connected with them online or you even talked to them on the phone, the first time you see them in the flesh and you shake their hand or you give them a hug, you know what they usually say? You say something like this: great to finally meet you. And the reason for it is to actually see somebody face to face, flesh to flesh, conveys so much more about that person than any other medium possible. You're just getting all kinds of data. You're getting such a better picture of the reality of who that person is than you can ever do through email or through social media or through phone calls or, frankly, even, by the way, Skype or things like that. To see them in the flesh, three-dimensional. And there's something like that going on when the Bible talks about seeking God's face. I mean, the Bible uses sensory language sometimes for prayer. So Psalm 27, which I've already talked about, David says there's only one primary thing he asks: to gaze on the beauty of the Lord. To gaze on the beauty of the Lord. Don't believe he's talking about a literal vision to his physical eyes. Psalm 63 says, "Oh God, my soul thirsts for you. I've seen you in the sanctuary. I beheld your power and your glory. Because your love is better than life, I will praise you. My soul is satisfied as with the richest of foods." You notice in one of the Psalms says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good." It doesn't just say, know that the Lord is good. Taste it. Now, why does it use sensory language? Johnathan Edwards is going to say, it's one thing to know God is holy with the mind. It's another thing to sense his holiness on your heart in prayer, so that it changes you and makes you not want to sin anymore. It's one thing to know in the abstract that God is love. It's another thing to actually feel his love on your heart, sense it on your heart, so that you start to live loved instead of living such a needy life. There's a difference, and you certainly aren't in control of when that happens. But friendship with God means that sometimes when you pray, you see his face, as it were. Not with the physical eyes. John Owen, who's a pretty, austere theologian in many ways, puts it like this. He says, when you're meditating on the Word of God, first comes the actual exercise of the mind. He says, fix your thoughts and meditations on the spiritual truth. Then comes the inclination of all your affections of your heart toward these things, whereby they cleave to the spiritual truths and make an engagement unto them. Now, what he's saying is, first of all, you fix the biblical doctrine in your mind, but then secondly, try to incline your heart toward it. Ask yourself questions like, if I really took this seriously, why would I feel different? Yes, I would. Would I act different? Yes, I would. Talk to yourself and say, have I really grasped this? This is remarkable. How would this make me different if I took it seriously? So you're inclining your heart toward the truth. And then he says, finally, sometimes comes a relish and a savor in which lies the sweetness and the satisfaction of the spiritual life. We then taste by experience that God is gracious and that the love of Christ is better than wine. And then he adds this, if we settle for mere speculations and mental notions about Christ as doctrine, we shall find no transforming power or efficacy communicated unto us thereby. But when under the conduct of spiritual light our affections do sometimes cleave unto him with full purpose of heart, our minds fill up with thoughts and delights in him, then virtue, which means change in character, will proceed from him to purify us, increase our holiness, and sometimes, notice, sometimes fill us with joy unspeakable and full of glory.